Well, it's a real joy and a pleasure to be here again. So this morning I have some holiday eating tips for you. You know, when you go to all those parties and things, if you go to a party and they have carrots, avoid carrot sticks. Anyone who puts carrots on a holiday buffet table knows nothing about the Christmas spirit. I mean, if they have carrots, go next door where they have those really good Christmas cookies and drink as much eggnog as you can quickly because, it's like fine single malt scotch. It's very rare. As a matter of fact, it's even more rare than single malt scotch because you can only find it this time of year. So drink up. Who cares if it has 1,000 calories in every sip? It's not like you're going to turn into eggnogaholics or anything. It's a treat. Enjoy it. Have one for me. Have two. It's later than you think. It's Christmas. Do not snack before you go to a party because the whole point of going to a Christmas party is eating all that delicious food that other people provide for you. Lots of it. Hello. Under no circumstances should you exercise between now and New Year's. You heard it first from me. You can do that in January when you have nothing better to do, right? This is a time for long naps after you're circling that buffet table with a plate that weighs 10 pounds and a vat of eggnog in your other hand. And if you come across something that looks really good on the buffet table, like cookies the size and shape of Santa, get as near as you can and don't budge until finally you make a spectacle of yourself. Because they're like a beautiful pair of shoes. If you don't buy them now, you'll never see them again, right, ladies? Did I mention fruitcake? Granted, it's loaded with mandatory celebratory calories. I understand that, but please avoid it at all costs. I mean, have some standards here. One final tip, if you don't feel terrible when you leave the party, leave the table, you have not been paying attention. You know the cartoon character Maxine? She has a motto to live by. She says, "Life is not a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in an attractive and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in sideways with chocolate in one hand, a martini in the other, body thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and screaming, 'Woo-hoo, what a ride!'" Enough nonsense. So this morning, all these beautiful lights, they're so pretty, and I'm going to ask you, how bright is your star? Are you shining brightly, or maybe you're not quite up to full wattage? This can be a stressful time of year with a lot of obligations that are pretty difficult to meet sometimes. But you are the star in your own life story. You are playing the leading role. You are the most important character in this drama called your life. Are you leading a kind of life that will earn you an Oscar? Or is your light just a little bit dim? I don't know if we get more than one lifetime here, but I believe we do because that makes sense to me. Because how is it fair that one person is born rich and one person is born poor? That just doesn't make any sense. Why would we only get one chance? But in this Christmas season, I'm going to live my life like I only get one life. I'm going to be the star in my own life, and I'm going to shine my life as bright as I can. Now, the Christmas story would not be complete without the Christmas star that was over the stable where Jesus was born. Its light was so bright that it guided the wise men, or the magi, so that they could find the Christ child and bring him gifts of great worth. Metaphysically, the star represents illumination, light at its absolute finest and brightest and most beautiful. Some stars are brighter than others, we know this. Some stars are dwarf stars. Some stars are white hot. Some stars explode and extinguish themselves. Sometimes we are shining God's light so brightly that we are fully illuminated, and life is really, really good. Things are working out. We're going with the flow. We're with the right people at the right time in the right place, and the checks are coming in the mail. We're living a life of spiritual illumination. The star over the stable where Jesus was born metaphysically represents illumination. It came from the east, and the east metaphysically represents spiritual. So the star in the east represents spiritual illumination, and it leads us to an awakening of the consciousness of the Christ Spirit within each and every one of us. It's a rebirth, a remembering of who we truly are, of being fully Christed in every moment. Because the spark of divinity has always been within us, whether we allow it to shine or not. How bright is your star of spiritual illumination? Are we willing in this sacred, holy Christmas season to allow that spark to grow, to radiate out of us as love and peace and joy and prosperity, no matter what's happening around us? It's a big job in this day and age. Or are we going to hide our spiritual illumination underneath that proverbial bushel basket? I hope not. The wise men followed that star of spiritual illumination. The wise men represent wisdom and experience. They recognized that light for what it was. Their wisdom is not just outer wisdom or intellectual wisdom. It's an intuitive knowing, spiritual intuition, that knowing capacity that each and every one of us has that lets us know the right thing to do at the right time. You might call this our gut feeling. We've all had those, right? This is knowing without a doubt, and it transcends intellectual knowledge. We access this spiritual intuition through prayer and meditation, where we connect with Source, where we go within to find answers and solutions to all the challenges we have in everyday life, to go within and rebirth that Christ Spirit in our consciousness. When we let go of our personal self, that little self, that ego, and rise up into the light of God, we'll always hear that still, small voice guiding us from within, encouraging us, leading us, just like the star led the wise men to the Christ child. Are we choosing to shine with the illumination of Spirit, or do we hide our light? Do we play small? It's a choice. I found this poem. I do not know who wrote it, but it will be very familiar to you. It's called The Bible, Bible, Basic Instruction Before Leaving Earth. 'Twas the night Jesus came, and all through the house not a person was praying, not one in the house. The Bible was left on the shelf without care, for no one thought Jesus would come here. The children were dressing to crawl in their bed, not once even kneeling or bowing their head. And Mom, in the rocking chair with Babe on her lap, was watching the Late Show while I took a nap. When out of the east there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my feet to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and lifted the sash. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but angels proclaiming that Jesus was here. The light on his face made me cover my face. Was Jesus returning just like he said? And though I possessed worldly wisdom and wealth, I cried when I saw him in spite of myself. In the book of life, which he held in his hand, was written the name of every good woman and man. He spoke not a word as he searched for my name. When he said, "It's not here," I hung my head in shame. The peoples whose names have been written with love, he gathered to take to his Father above. With those who were ready, he rose without a sound, while all the others were left standing around. I fell to my knees, but it was too late. I'd waited too long and thus sealed my fate. I stood and I cried as he rose out of sight. Oh, if only I'd known that this was the night. In the words of the poem, the meaning is clear. The coming of the Christ is now drawing near. We all have the choice to ignore or believe that the Christ within is ours to receive. This is a good part of the poem. We celebrate Jesus' birth, and that is the only reason we come together in joy and celebrate the Christmas season. We remember our divinity. We choose to be love, and all of God's goodness will reign from above. May your holidays be merry. May your holidays be bright. And may the Spirit of the living Christ be rebirthed in your heart this night. Now, I'm not sure whether or not Jesus will return in bodily form. I didn't learn that in seminary. They never talked about it. However, there is a spark of divinity, a bit of the Christ in each and every one of us that we can begin to live from. And I don't think it's ever too late to remember to turn our attention back to God. I know that God is always calling us up higher into our own divinity. And I know that when we don't, the Holy Spirit is urging us higher with God's grace, pushing us 2 steps forward for every 1 step we take back. In this Christmas season, can we live a life filled with the inner life of Christ? Can we remember that we are divine beings having a human experience? You've heard that a million times. Can we be kinder to those around us no matter how they're showing up? That's a tall order. Or do we respond to the checkout person at Walmart with a growl because there were 10 people ahead of us and we had to wait? Or do we curse the Amazon driver because I had to wait a whole day for my package instead of getting it in 2 hours like I did the other day? How bright is your star shining? I have a letter from Jesus. He says, "Dear children, it's come to my attention that many of you are upset that folks are taking my name out of the season. Like instead of calling it Christmas, they're calling it Xmas. That drove my grandmother crazy. Maybe you've forgotten that I wasn't actually born during this time of year and that some of your predecessors decided to celebrate my birthday on what was actually a time of pagan festivals. We believe, Bible scholars believe, that Jesus was actually born in the spring. And the reason we believe that is because in the Christmas story in the Bible, it says that the shepherds were in their fields waiting night and day. And the only reason they would do that if it were the time when the lambs were supposed to be born, which would be in the spring. But it was decided that there were all these other harvest festivals and things in late fall and early winter, so we just put Jesus' birth in there. But I do appreciate being remembered at any time, he says. How I personally feel about this celebration can probably be most easily understood by those of you who have children. I have 2 little grandsons who they cannot wait for Christmas. Jesus says, I don't care what you call the day. If you want to celebrate my birth, wait for it. This is the most important thing you're going to hear today. Get along and love one another. Get along and love one another. We're unitics. We can do this. Now, having said that, let me go on. If it bothers you that the town in which you live doesn't allow a nativity scene on the courthouse square, don't worry about it. Just get rid of a couple of those Santas and sleighs and reindeers and snowmen and Grinches. Have you seen the Grinches? They're everywhere in my neighborhood. Grinches, are you kidding me? Grinches. My grandsons have Grinches in their yard. And instead, put up a small nativity scene on your own front lawn. There are no nativity scenes in my neighborhood, including my house. What does that say about me? If all of my followers did that, they wouldn't need a scene in the town square because they'd be all over town. Stop worrying about the fact that people are calling the tree a holiday tree instead of a Christmas tree. I have an aunt who was Jewish, and she had a Hanukkah bush. Okay. Jesus said, "It was I who made all the trees. You may remember me anytime you see a tree. Decorate a grapevine if you wish. If you want to give me a present in remembrance of my birth, here's my wish list. Choose something from it." I always like to give you some tools to use what I talk about. So here's what Jesus says he'd like for you to give him. Instead of writing protest letters to the president about the state of the economy and the wars and all of that, send him a letter telling that you're praying for him and his family. He has a hard job. And instead of writing letters about protests for things, write some letters to some soldiers who are far away from home. They're terribly afraid and lonely this time of year. Jesus knows, they tell him all the time. Visit someone in a nursing home. You don't have to know them personally. They just need to know that someone cares about them. Instead of giving your children or friends lots of presents that you can't afford and they don't really need, spend time with them. Hold them in your arms and tell them you love them. Read to them. Take them for a walk around the lake and show them the trees and the water birds. They'll remember that more than they'll remember some toy that they opened on Christmas Day and broke the next day. Here's where the rubber meets the road. Pick someone who has hurt you in the past and forgive them. And maybe more than one person. And instead of complaining about the lines in the stores are long and that there aren't enough cashiers, be patient. Give someone a smile. It could make a difference. Buy one of those packaged dinners at the grocery stores for a needy family. And remember, people need to eat all year round, not just on the holidays. And if you want to make a statement about your belief and loyalty to me, behave like a Christian. Let people know by your actions that you are one of mine. P.S. Don't forget I'm God and I can take care of myself. Just love me and do what I told you to do. Love God and love each other. Simple. I'll take care of the rest. Check the list and get to work. Time is short. I'll help you, but the ball is in your court. And do have the most blessed Christmas for all those you love and remember. I love you, Jesus. I think we need to get off our soapbox and start cleaning up our own lives. And when I point the finger at you, 3 fingers are pointing back at me. Doing any one of those things on that list will make our light shine brighter. We're all on this great, heroic journey we call life. We cannot fail. We can only not try. You are the star in your own life story. Are you going to create a Broadway hit or something else? So I ask you, how bright is your star? Thank you.